All right. Whew. Brr, man, it's kind of cold. Wind's kicking up. Been a real nice day today, though. That's beautiful out. All right, so tried to make this video a little while ago, and my poor Kodak camera is starting to give away. It's literally been run over by a truck. It's quite a few years old. Guess it's time to get a new camera. Anyways, so I'm doing this video because Cody had talked about a few things today in a video, and I figured I would kind of tell my little story that's kind of similar, or not similar, but has to do with it. He was talking about a guy that had worked in an office and went out and ended up doing some work for this internship on a farm situation, built some stuff with his own hands, and then Cody got to talking about, you know, changing your life and the rewards in that. So I figured I would just kind of talk about my own situation. So 4 years ago, about 3.5 years ago, when we actually moved, I basically lived in New Haven, Connecticut, and we did pretty good for ourselves. We had good jobs and made, you know, okay money, and we lived in a really nice apartment and a decent part of town, and the whole thing. Not a bad life, but it just really wasn't for me. When I was a kid, I spent my summers at my grandparents' farm, and looking back through all my life, it was just the most rewarding situation. They grew their own food, they fished and hunted. They were Kentucky coal miners, and just a nice sustainable life, and how rewarding that was, and the pressures they had just seemed different than a lot of what I saw everywhere else. So all my life I just always thought about that. So once I'd been in Connecticut for a few years, we'd been traveling a fair amount, and I'd been coming up to New Hampshire with a good friend of mine, and backpacking and mountaineering and rock climbing and stuff. And from then, I just really liked it up here. And when I got married, came time to look for a house, it just seemed silly that in Connecticut it was so expensive to own a home. You know, like, we weren't doing bad for ourselves. It just didn't seem like it left much room for life. We'd have just been indebted to everything all the time. Homes, cars, everything. It's expensive. So I made a choice that we would move up to New Hampshire and take the risk. I grew up in Arkansas, and I've moved around a few times, so not necessarily new to me, but for my wife, who had grown up in the same area, you know, pretty big deal for her. But we did it, and it was it's pretty tough. I mean, we saved up for a year, and then for about 6 months we had friends that lived up in this area too, that through me talking about it long enough, another buddy of mine moved up right before we did. And we came up, and I researched a lot about the area and knew that there was a good economy, or at least a somewhat stable economy in the area I was going to. And we just worked out ways to do it. I used Home Depot as a catalyst. When I knew that I wanted to move, I got a job that I knew I could transfer through, which I highly recommend if you want to try and make big changes in your life. And it helped me get up here, but kind of the point of this is you need to make a decision to do something and then see it through. Life can always be tough, and you never know what's going to happen. And as long as you're smart and working hard, you can always make it work out. And so when we were leaving Connecticut, we had a lot of trouble. I mean, a lot of things happened. Some financial stuff, the motor blew up in my truck, just a handful of things. But we got through it. And by the time we got up here, we took a couple more hits when we got up here, and basically all the money we'd saved up and the buffer that we built was gone within months. But we were up here and we were stable, and we started to get to it. And there's always a curveball, man. So I moved up for being a manager at Home Depot, and I ended up being a tow truck driver within a few days. I don't know, whatever. It was cool, and it was a means to a way, but I knew, or means to an end, but it wasn't what I wanted to do, or I did. It was fun, but I knew I wouldn't do it forever. So now, years later, we live in an awesome place. I mean, I got up, I went snowshoeing today, right out the back door. I can see my house. I went snowshoeing right there, right up into the mountains. And it's awesome. And we pay substantially less now than we did in Connecticut to live in a 10 times better place. But the point is if you want to go and do something, you make the best plan that you can. You hope for the best and expect the worst, and you'll get through it, just like you would if you were to be anywhere. But I can tell you this, if you're sitting somewhere and you're not happy with your situation, no matter where you go and what you do, no matter how much you seem like you're going to fail or it's going to be difficult, it's not going to be any worse than what you're doing now. And if you go up and you fail and you have to come crawling back, well, at least you tried. But I don't think that'll have to be. And you just kind of do what you got to do. So, you know, I drove a tow truck for a while, and now I work in an architectural mill, and I love it. I'm extremely happy with my job. My wife has had a similar situation where she kind of worked in a couple places that maybe wouldn't have been her first pick, but now, years later, working hard, she works in a hospital that she loves and is surrounded by good people and really loves it. A little small hospital. And it took some time. So kind of what I'm getting at with that is, you know, you might be sitting in some big city making a ton of money and you know, have the things that you thought you wanted, but you're still not happy. Well, what I'm suggesting is sometimes maybe you should just back off a little bit, and maybe you have to move somewhere and not necessarily do the same type of job that you are, and maybe take a pay cut, maybe do something that's a little more hands-on, maybe even a little bit more rewarding, but you don't make as much money in. But if you're smart and you stay with what you're doing and be in an area you want to be in, you can eventually make it work out. And then, before you know it, you've been somewhere for a little while. Now you do have a place that you want to be at. You do have a job that you want to be at, and you're happy. And even when the money gets down or things happen, you're still in that place, and you're still happy. You know, we might have some major money problems, but if we were still staying in this place, well, there's a pond right there. There's 40 acres of land that we're just sitting on, hundreds of acres around us. I could walk to the White National Forest from my house. So if you put yourself in the place you want to be, getting through everything else makes it a lot easier. When you cut money out of the equation so much, it has less effect on you in the end. So anyways, that's just, you know, my little rant today of if you're unhappy where you are, you can move. You can do it. People do it and have been doing it for generations. Mankind has always done it. So don't be scared and don't get so wrapped up in money to keep yourself from doing it. Plan the best you can, make the best run at it. But if you're unhappy with what you're doing now, taking a risk to go do something else isn't going to be any worse, I can promise you. But anyways, that's my thoughts. And yeah, I don't know, one day I'll sit down and do a series and talk about how we got where we are and the decisions we made and how we did it and the trials that we went through to get here. But anyways, take it easy, you guys. Get outside and hopefully you can go out and enjoy something like this yourselves. Anyways, take it easy, you guys.